Well, let's now turn to the advisory and take a look at why people set up an SMSF and what they need to consider. Well, Marjon Muizer is director at Red Willow and joins us now. Welcome. So, an SMSF, why would you go it alone for super?
The SMSF market is still growing quite strongly, and there will likely be about 700,000 funds by the end of the year. It seems like probably one of the main reasons is control. Like, people just like doing their own thing, and also just, I guess it offers a wide range of investment options. So they may want to buy something that they can't buy in a retail or an industry fund. So maybe, like, could be a direct property or crypto, gold or silver, or shares in unlisted companies. And it just seems people are just, quite interested in their retirement outcomes, probably especially with just recent policy debates and rule changes.
All right, but of course with that comes the stress of operating an SMSF, particularly in terms of compliance and those responsibilities that go with it. So what do people need to consider?
Yeah, so really you are responsible for pretty much everything. So you can definitely engage other professionals to help out. So an accountant that can prepare the financial statements and the tax return. And I would say probably 99% of trustees, they would have an accountant that prepares the tax return and the financial statements. Some trustees, they would also have a financial advisor. That's someone that can help them out with making investment decisions, or maybe give them, sort of strategic advice on when to potentially start a pension, or in relation to estate planning.
What do you think some of the most common errors are when people set up an SMS?
Things that is sort of lacking quite often, I think, is just record keeping, because trustees, they're often so focused on, what should I buy, what should I sell, which makes sense. But at the end of the year, you also need to demonstrate that your fund owns the investment that you say that it owns, that they're recorded at the right value and that they're held in the right name. So just because you paid for something, that doesn't necessarily mean, you got what you paid for and it's held in the right name and that it's still there at the end of the year. So, like, we see it often with, investments like, non-listed investments, let's say gold bars. It's like, you can definitely buy a gold bar or crypto and so on, but just make sure that you keep the purchase documents. And that should say that it was purchased in the name of the fund, like not yourself. And it's really just, I think, ongoing record keeping, just making sure that you can demonstrate what the fund actually owns and how much it's worth.
Marjon, what are the current trends you're seeing among SMSF holders and trustees at the moment, I guess particularly perhaps in some investments that they're making?
I think gold and silver and property is quite popular. And property seems to have been kind of popular for the past, I think few years. But for a lot of people, I think especially like younger people, they have, like, often their superannuation is pretty much the largest asset that they own. I'd say property is still quite popular. And then, of course, there's also just the standard listed investments and cash. But we definitely see probably a bit of a growth in, like, crypto, gold and silver, unlisted investments, like the non-standard stuff.
And what do you need to consider in terms of your financial position in terms of setting up an SMSF, be it perhaps the stage of life you're at, whether you've just joined the workforce or perhaps whether you're approaching retirement? Is there an appropriate time to set one up?
I think it's not necessarily an appropriate time. It's probably more whether or not you're ready to actually take on the responsibility. And it doesn't look, a lot of trustees, they do use someone to help them out, like an accountant or an advisor, but you're still going to have to be aware of the compliance requirements. So most of the time we'd see probably maybe sort of like midlife seems to be people in the age bracket of 35 to 45. That seems to be like quite a strong growth at the moment. And I think it's because for them, they've probably have been receiving super guarantees since they've had their first job. So they've actually managed to save up a decent balance.